Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think it's working now.
Okay.
Yeah, because I can see the screen on my side, and can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Jenny. Yeah, it's okay now. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, well, hello, and I apologize for the little technical difficulties that we were having, but I believe we are pretty good to go now. So, yep, even though there are a few people still logging in, I want to respect your time and just go ahead and get the ball rolling. Now, first things first, let me just double check that you can hear me, and do me a huge favor. If you can hear me, simply type yes into the chat box for me. Good. Yep. Plenty of yeses coming in. Yes, 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 yes. It looks like, yeah, okay, that looks great. Okay. While the last few people are logging on, we're going to go ahead and get started, because here's the thing. I only really have about 45 minutes to an hour to spend with you. So what I want to do is to first quickly introduce myself and then kickstart the training straight after. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am, what I believe in, and why you should feel comfortable listening to me on this training. So here you can see a few pictures of myself. So we're going to work our way from top left to bottom left. So in the top left, that's me in Germany in 1989. And this was my very first business. I was doing door-to-door selling of water and air filters. Now I can still see the shocked faces of my German customers as they opened their door to see a fluent German-speaking black guy with an air filter under one arm and a water filter under the other arm. Man, I can tell you some funny stories from those days, believe me. Anyway, moving on. The top right-hand corner is 1991. I absolutely love kids, but I hold my hands up and admit it, I absolutely suck at feeding them. Here I am trying to make a feeble attempt at feeding my friend's one-year-old daughter, and there's more food on her face and on the clothes and on the table and on the floor than what actually ended up in her stomach. Poor little thing. Middle left, I love football, or soccer for my US friends. In fact, I almost became a pro, but ended up joining the Royal Air Force instead, which is a story for another day. Anyway, I ended up getting my FA coaching badge, and I use those skills to coach young children and link the game with activities to build their social skills and their self-esteem. Now, this happy bunch of kids in this photo live in one of the toughest areas in Jamaica. Now, I often travel out there and work in conjunction with the local primary school and these children, and I absolutely love being a role model for these kids and can't wait to see them again. Middle right, there's another football coaching session. This time it was in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia with a group of children who attend the Fresh and Green Academy. Now, the Fresh and Green Academy is a charitable school for impoverished street children who take these young children off the streets and their mothers and feed them, clothe them, and educate them. Now, the Academy are clients of mine. I built their website back in, I think it was 1998 or something, and I helped them with the marketing of their fundraising events. Now, I had the absolute pleasure of visiting the Academy in August 2013, and that's when this picture was taken. Moving quickly on, directly below that is a picture of me with one of my biggest passions. I absolutely love birds of prey, and this little beauty is what's called a kite. Of all the birds of prey, I love hawks, and this one's called a kite, and meeting her was an absolute unforgettable experience. Moving on down the page, that's me in Cairo, in Egypt, on my birthday, sailing down the River Nile in a felucca, which is something that I always wanted to do, so that was great fun. And finally, in the bottom left-hand corner, I used to work the rounds of the club scene in Germany as a club DJ. Now, I did this throughout I think it was the 80s and the 90s, but here's a more recent picture of me as a guest on the More Soul show in Berlin, Germany. And this is my vision, the reason why I'm with you today, and the very reason why I do what I do. I have a dream of building a business that restores public confidence in the real estate industry by helping real estate entrepreneurs to establish instant credibility and trust with buyers, sellers, investors, and key business decision makers. A big dream, I know, and I hope you can help me get there, and I can help you achieve your dreams. But for now that you know a little bit more about me, it's time to jump straight into the training. So with that said, who is this training for? Well, this training is for top producing real estate entrepreneurs who want to position themselves as the most well-known real estate entrepreneur in their city, attract more high-end listings, and sell more properties. If this sounds like you, then you're about to discover some insider knowledge. And I'm talking about the kind of insider knowledge that's been kept secret, close to the chest of the rich, the famous, and the multi-million-dollar enterprises that up until now, neither you nor I stood a chance of competing with. However, all that's about to change, because within the next 60 minutes or so, I'm going to share a simple 3-step formula for positioning yourself as a real estate authority within your industry. I'm also going to share how you can be seen on the websites of media powerhouses like Forbes, CNN, Huffington Post, USA News, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, and dozens more. And I'm also going to blow the lid and reveal how entrepreneurs just like you are becoming best-selling authors without having to write a book, and how you can too, so that you can get more brand credibility, high-quality listings, high-quality sellers, high-quality buyers, high-end sales, and ultimately more money to build your business. Now I must point out, there's nothing for sale on this training, just pure educational content that's going to help you become the easiest choice that buyers and sellers will ever have to make when they are looking for a real estate authority to work with. So with that said, let's get you in the right frame of mind by sharing a quote from a former Chinese military general called Sun Tzu. Now, Sun Tzu said that in the art of war, when you are small, you need to appear big. Now, this is a very important marketing point for you to remember when you want to be seen as a leading real estate authority within your city. So go ahead, type yes. In fact, type a big fat yes into the chat box if being a leading real estate authority is important to you. Good. Yeah. Mike says yes. John says yes. Mary, Manuela, David also, and Simon. Okay, yeah. Plenty of yeses coming in. And that's good, because before I show you what it takes to become a real estate authority within your industry, we're first going to take a look at the most common myths that people associate with being an authority. Here are the top 5. Myth number 1. To be an expert, you just need to call yourself an expert. Now, there are a lot of people going around calling themselves experts. You hear phrases like stake your claim, or experts actually teaching people to call themselves experts. Such things have become the norm. However, regardless of what everyone else is doing around you, you should be mindful of how quick and ready you are to call yourself an expert. You'd be far better served by focusing on positioning yourself as an educator and an advocate for your client's success. That should be your main focus, so buyers and sellers see you as a source of valuable information and that you truly care about them and their listings. Focus on positioning yourself like this, and they will be the ones calling you the expert, and they will be the ones calling you when they are ready to take the next step. So please, don't call yourself the expert. You don't have to call yourself the expert. All you have to do is just to do the things that allow others to call you the expert instead. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Myth number 2. An expert is a person that knows everything about their subject matter. You know what I've got to say to that? Hogwash. Absolute hogwash. And let me tell you why. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. I love that saying so much, as it applies to so many situations, including yours. I mean, how many people are there in the real estate industry that know far less than you? However, because of the way they've positioned themselves in the market, they are perceived to be experts. I bet a few faces are springing to mind, right? Look, if you don't know everything there is to know about the real estate industry, which, by the way, is a good thing, but if you know how to sell properties, then in the eyes of your prospects, you are an expert. Done deal, end of story. Myth number 3. An expert is the very best at what they do in their field. Well, this is what a lot of people believe, right? And especially entrepreneurs in the real estate industry. But consider this. There are some real estate professionals making an absolute fortune doing the same things that you do. Not because they are better at what they do, but because they share knowledge. They create and publish problem-solving information in order to be recognized as an expert. This kind of positioning allows them to attract larger audiences, higher quality clients, high quality listings, and higher fees, regardless of whether they are the best in their field or not. So that's why it's so frustrating when you see these guys and you think, they're no better than me, but look what they're doing. It's all about positioning. Myth number 4. It takes years to build an expert reputation so that big online media outlets will talk about you as an authority. Again, absolute nonsense. And let me explain why. How many examples have you seen of people with no acting talent getting prime-time media coverage because they appeared in a reality TV show? These people shoot to overnight fame and fortune without putting in the time to build an expert reputation. And the same can be said of you. You too can get the same kind of media coverage to boost your visibility, credibility, and your reputation. And that's part of what I'll be sharing with you during this training. So look, you don't have to be the best or spend decades building your expert reputation. You just have to know how to use what's called trust triggers, and I'll explain those very shortly, to position yourself as a well-known professional and authority in your city. Okay, the 5th and final authority myth is the biggest and most common of them all combined. You are not ready to step out as an authority right now. I don't know. I mean, somewhere along the line you may have convinced yourself that you're not ready to step up and own your own authority. That you need more time, more qualifications, more tools, more this, more that. And it's something you'll get to sometime down the road. Just not now. You know something? You want to know the real truth about that? It's like this. If you can look a buyer or a seller in the eyes and confidently say, I can help you, and you have information, and you're willing and able to share that information, you're willing and able to better their lives and their businesses, then you deserve to step up and claim your authority now. And remember, it's not about you calling yourself the expert. It's about doing the things that are required to make it easy for others to be able to call you the expert, to call you the guru, to call you the authority. You see, at the end of the day, it's all about perception. You could be the best agent or broker in your city, but if people aren't getting the right first impression when they see you, your website, your advertising, then you're fighting an uphill battle from that point on. But hey, listen, don't take my word for it, because I'm about to show you a picture that will blow all 5 of the authority myths we've just discussed out of the water. Who is this? Go ahead and type number 1 in the chat box if you know who this is. Yeah, of course, everybody knows who this is. And, even I know, and I'm from the UK. Okay, plenty of ones coming in, and of course, we all know it's the one and only Barbara Corcoran, who went from small-time realtor to being the broker to the stars. Now today, she's known all over the world as the woman who took a $1,000 loan to start the Corcoran Group, for which she later sold for a healthy sum of $66 million. We all know that, right? So why am I referencing Barbara? Well, it's because she echoes the point I've been sharing with you when she said, and I quote, "Perception creates reality." The most effective way to build a brand is not by spending millions in advertising, but by finding a clever way to keep your name in the press. How profound is that? She's further quoted as saying, "I became a larger-than-life figure for one reason only. When you're quoted in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, constantly as the expert in the business, people assume you're a lot bigger than you are. And then I had to run like hell to catch up with my own image." I absolutely love that. Barbara understands the power of the media and used it to catapult her business to success. And the same can be said of you, because being in the media allows you to showcase your expertise and position your business as a credible voice in your industry, build trust with potential buyers so you can speed up the buying cycle, maintain top-of-mind awareness so hot prospects think of you when it's time to buy, add value to existing client relationships so you reduce churn and increase referrals, and raise market awareness today so you can facilitate sales tomorrow. Look, this is a fact. People assign credibility to big media, and big media assigns credibility to people. You can use big media as credible third-party sources to recognize you as an expert, so you don't have to call yourself the expert. Now, what that means is, when you're mentioned and seen in the media, it creates a conversation in your prospect's mind. A conversation that goes something like, this person must know what they are doing. They're an expert. They're an expert in, well, you go ahead and fill in the blank. And it's that blank, that subject matter, that's going to set you apart from anyone else in your field. You see, by being an expert or specializing in one specific area of your profession, or better said, micro-specializing, you're adopting what's called the authority mindset. Now, I know you've probably never heard of the authority mindset, so let's dig deeper into that and find out more. The authority mindset can be explained as learning more and more about less and less. In other words, micro-specializing. That's when you get more and more specific about what you're teaching, what you're selling, and what you're doing. It becomes so much easier to become an expert at it and really solve your clients' problems. It's about narrowing the focus and the speciality on what you do. You know, my mentor has this fantastic saying. He always says, The definition of perfection is not when there's nothing left to add. It's when there's nothing left to take away. That is just sublime. And he's so right. And that's what we call the authority mindset. And it's what micro-specializing is all about. It's drilling down to a granular level where everything becomes so much easier than trying to help everybody. A true expert or authority is a person who knows more and more about less and less. So for example, as a real estate entrepreneur, you could specialize in first-time home buyers or just first-time home buyer loans. And you could micro-specialize even further by focusing on one geographic location at a time. So yes, micro-specialize. There's less competition, you'll be able to focus on learning more about your specific topic, and you'll be better positioned to help your clients get what they want because you are specialized in solving their specific problems. When you do this, you create an unfair reality. So, when it comes to new listings, the simple truth is that it doesn't matter if you have a degree, how many info products you've bought, how many events you've attended, how, even how hard you work or even how good you really are. And you want to know why? Because according to an article published on USA Today, these days, only 1/3 of Americans say most people can be trusted. Think about that. Only 1/3 of Americans say most people can be trusted. Well, unfortunately, what this translates to is, if buyers and sellers don't trust that you are an authority in your field, then you're going to have to work 10 times harder to convert them into a client. However, if buyers and sellers do trust that you are an authority, then they'll pick you over the competition every time. And yes, even if it costs them more to work with you. Now think about that for a moment and allow it to sink in, as it's a very powerful part of human psychology. Even if it costs them more to work with you, if you're perceived as the educator, that advocate, the person who always provides great advice without looking for the sale, in other words, the authority, they will pick you over the competition every time. If there's one thing I've learned in business, it's to look outside of your own industry to see what's working for others and to adapt and apply their models to your own business to make it grow. Such lessons can be learned from the 4 most trusted people in the world: Tom Hanks, Sandra Bullock, Denzel Washington, and Meryl Streep. They're loved and praised by the media wherever they go, and as a result of all the coverage and their micro-specialized skills as actors and actresses, they are at the top of their game and have huge fan base followings. You too can develop the same model and have amazing results being loved by the media, clients and prospective clients in your city. And why? Because perception is reality. Like it or not, our society has been conditioned to see the media as a credible source of information. Prospects and leads of today who turn into buyers and sellers of tomorrow place their trust in the media and are strongly influenced by media recommendations, especially media recommendations that pass on authority to those endorsed and seen in the media. In other words, you. So what does all this mean then? It all translates to a simple formula. Media talking about you or your business is equal to instant credibility, trust, and authority. This is Dan Kennedy, a strategic advisor, consultant, business coach, and author of the popular No BS book series. He directly influences more than 1 million business owners annually and is arguably one of the greatest marketers of all time. This is Dan's take on manufacturing your own celebrity. The simple truth is, if you aren't deliberate, systematically, methodically, or rapidly and dramatically establishing yourself as a celebrity, at least to your clientele and target market, you're asleep at the wheel, ignoring what is fueling the entire economy around you and neglecting development of a measurable, valuable asset. That's Dan Kennedy, the #1 marketer in the whole world. Now let me ask you this. Do you remember the chicken and the egg? That all-encompassing question. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, this is how it applies to you. Do you want to wait and hope that the media might talk about you someday because you've spent years calling yourself the expert? Or would you rather have others see you as the expert right now because the media is talking about you today? Now imagine that for a moment. You have a choice. Celebrity and authority status rarely just happens to people. If there's one thing you can take away from this training, let it be the realization that celebrity, authority, and credibility are created deliberately and by design, and with a very purposeful plan. Yes, you can even say it's manufactured, and you can quote me on that. Now, an excellent example of manufactured celebrity are the Kardashians. Are they the smartest and best in Hollywood? Hey, come on. No. We all know that. Do they know everything about acting and showbiz? No, definitely not. And did they take years to build their reputation so big media would take notice of them? Again, a big no. They literally came from nowhere. They're always in the news, they're always being talked about, and they're always using the media to make themselves stand out. And hey, did I mention that they're mega rich? So look, I know all these insights I'm sharing are unorthodox. They're kind of left field and they swim against the current, go against the grain. But if you didn't already know this, don't beat yourself up about it. Because the truth is most people don't. So it's not your fault, okay? The reality is, being able to manufacture your own credibility has been an unfair advantage that's rarely been talked about outside of the insider circles of the rich, the famous, and the corporate giants. However, things have changed. They no longer have the monopoly on this. Now you too can create instant credibility, trust, and authority. And with that said, how does turning the authority marketing table in your favor sound? Are you ready? Let's manufacture some authority. Now I've been talking for a while and I want you guys to play your part, so go ahead and type a big yes into the chat box if you're open to discovering how to create instant credibility, trust, and authority with your prospects. And I'm not talking about in 10 years or 10 months or even 10 weeks from now, but right now, within the next 48 hours. So go ahead, type a big yes in the chat box if that's what you want. Okay, great. Plenty of yeses coming in, so let's get going. Okay, step 1 in creating your own authority. It all starts with creating trust triggers. I mentioned them before. You have to have them in every area of your client-facing activities. Here's what Derek Halpin, founder of Social Triggers, says on this very point. When people visit a website, they often look for a trust trigger, something that makes them say to themselves, okay, this site is the real deal. So you've heard me talking about trust triggers, and you've just seen what a leading expert on the subject has to say also. Now that you know you need them, the question is, what are they and how can you use them to create instant credibility and trust with prospective buyers and sellers? Now there are many ways to create the kind of trust triggers that make people think, yes, this person is legit, they are worth talking to. But one of the most powerful trust triggers you can use to manufacture credibility, just like the stars, the sports personalities, and the Fortune 500 companies do, are media tags. Once you've been published in the media, you can add media logos or tags to your social media images. This is what I've done in my picture on the left. The image does all of the talking for you. It quietly says, the media think I'm interested enough to write about, and I've been seen on the Boston Globe, Worth Magazine, NBC, CBS, Fox, and ABC. Now, an image speaks so much louder than 1,000 words, and in this example, nothing rings more true. Did you actually know that people read 400 to 500 times slower than the speed at which they process images? Well, it's true. Look at my picture on the left. Okay, you got it? And now look at the text on the right. Which one has more impact? Which of the two evokes more emotion? Which is more effective? It's obvious, right? It's the one on the left, and not because I'm so handsome, charming, and sophisticated, but simply because it's an image, and your brain processes it much faster than text, okay? So, we can agree that media tags added to your profile image, websites, and marketing materials are powerful trust triggers. But how do they match up against self-imposed titles and slogans? I mean, you could arguably just call yourself the guru of XYZ and forget using the media tags examples that I just showed you. Well, if that's the case, let's take a closer look at that. Which two of these personalities has more credibility? Which of them would you trust? Which of them do you perceive to be the expert? Go ahead, type left side or right side in the chat box so I can see. Yeah, okay, yeah, plenty of lefts coming in, that's correct, it's obvious. Third-party endorsements beats self-imposed titles and slogans every time. When you think about it, this is the subtle difference between public relations and authority marketing. A PR firm, what they actually do is, they do a lot of great work, okay? And I'm not putting down the great work of a PR firm, but fundamentally what they do is having you singing and dancing from the top of the hills about how great you are, how great your products are, how great your services are. Again, don't get me wrong, they do a good job, but the positioning where you are the one saying you're the expert is nowhere near as powerful as using third-party endorsements from well-known media outlets and established authority websites to do the same. It's more powerful in that instead of you doing the shouting, they do it for you. And that is more believable, more trustworthy, more credible, and positions you much more as an authority than anything else. Okay, so that's step one in manufacturing your authority. To build on that even further, we're going to look at creating a pattern of authority. Now I know it sounds geeky, so let's break it down into simple terms. Just being seen on another site one time isn't enough to establish the level of authority you're going to need to be recognized as the foremost authority in your city. To create a pattern of authority involves extending your reach both online and offline, and in doing so, you automatically become a more credible voice, leading to more influence with your prospects, buyers, and sellers. Remember the quote I shared with you earlier from the real estate mogul Barbara Corcoran, where she said, "The most effective way to build a brand is not by spending millions in advertising, but by finding a clever way to keep your name in the press?" Well, part of creating your pattern of authority, or as Barbara puts it, finding a clever way to keep your name in the press, is making sure you're on multiple authority sites with different headlines, which brings us to step 2 of creating a pattern of authority. It's vital that you use varying third-party endorsements, published over a continuing period of time and shared publicly through news outlets, social media networks, local directories, video platforms, blogs, podcasts, online magazines, and dozens of other methods, all aimed at widening and deepening your online footprint so you'll be found when buyers and sellers are ready to take action. Step 3 in manufacturing your authority is to follow the authority trail, or in other words, do as authority does. Now let me explain what I mean by that. Being a published author creates a huge gap between you and your competitors. Again, it's good practice to learn from industries and apply the lessons to your own situation. The experts illustrated here have managed to successfully manufacture their authority by micro-specializing and positioning themselves as educators and advocates for their target audience's success. Their best-selling books create instant credibility and trust with their audience. And as a side note, none of these experts are necessarily the best in their respective industries. However, in the minds of their followers, they are the foremost authorities and trusted advisors. Okay, while we're on the topic, let's talk about books, and not just any old books, but huge bestseller books earning their authors royalty millions versus bestseller books earning their authors expert status and authority. Royalty versus authority. Which one would you prefer? Celebrity authors like Stephen King and E.L. James make a lot of money through selling a lot of books. Type 1 in the chat box if you agree. Go ahead, do it for me now. Yep, good stuff. Plenty of ones coming in. Stephen says, Stephen says he wished he could get royalties on Stephen King's royalties. Why, I hear you loud and clear, Stevie. I really do. That's funny. Yes, that's right. Thanks for all of the feedback, by the way, everyone. That's right. Guys like Stephen King make a ton of money from book sales and royalties. But for you, however, your goal is much different. As an entrepreneur, your goal in becoming an author is to create expert status, credibility, and authority. You get all of this because you wrote the book. You wrote the book on your micro-specialized topic. It becomes a bestseller, and out of nowhere, you become an authority. See how it's all coming together here? Your articles, your videos, your news releases, your media tags, your best-selling book. Do you see how the pattern of authority is unfolding here? Great. If everything makes sense, then let's take a look at what actually defines a bestseller. No amount of Googling will produce an official legal definition because, well, there simply isn't one. The absence of an official definition, however, takes absolutely nothing away from the credibility, the trust, and celebrity, as well as expert status you will be elevated to once you hit any of the well-known bestseller lists. What may before this training, what may have seemed elusive, something only reserved for the privileged, is actually much easier to achieve than you think. With no official governing body overseeing the process, the most popular bestseller lists are determined by their respective publishers. Now just think about that for a moment. The New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Amazon.com are 3 of the most prestigious bestseller lists. The question is, how are people getting on them? And more importantly, how can you do the same? One way of becoming a best-selling author is by organically marketing and selling books. Getting there is a great achievement, but here's the deal, and if you didn't know this, you might just be shocked. Authors have been buying their way onto the bestseller list for years, and if I just destroyed your illusion, then my apologies, but it's simply the truth and a very commonplace practice. As common as it may be, it's certainly not cheap. Soren Kaplan, a business consultant and speaker, hired a company called Result Source to promote his book Leapfrogging. Responding to the Wall Street Journal's article on his website, Kaplan breaks out the economics of making the list. To ensure a spot on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list, I needed to obtain commitments from my clients for a minimum of 3,000 books at about $23.50, a total of $70,500. I would need to multiply these numbers by a factor of about 3 to hit the New York Times list. Now let me tell you something. I'm no Einstein, but that totals up to more than $211,000, and that's before Result Source's fee, which is typically around $20,000. On the Wall Street Journal, it takes about 3,000 copies to ensure a spot on the bestseller list. In the New York Times, it's about 9,000 copies to ensure a spot on the bestseller list, and the people in the know, and of course who have deep enough pockets, are buying their way onto the list on a regular basis. So why is being a best-selling author so valuable? No need to dwell on this point. It gets other media to pay attention to you. The press are always on the lookout for new and interesting content. When doing so, they would rather work with someone who is already accustomed to working with the media. It's just a fact. It creates building blocks to fuel demand. Similar to the above, when buyers, sellers, stakeholders, investors, business decision makers, and the multitude of associations are looking for the right person to work with, the person with a media profile is going to win hands down every time. You also get radio and public speaking engagements, as well as TV appearances, and each time you're introduced, your introduction sounds something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome for best-selling author, and then followed by your name. You can raise your fees as well. People will naturally expect to pay an expert more money. Clients will not second guess your knowledge because, again, you're positioned as the expert. The list for reasons of why becoming a best-selling author is so valuable is endless. I could talk for another 30 minutes on this point alone. But if I had to sum it all up, I'd say it in 3 words. It creates authority. Here's my first Amazon bestseller, a collaboration called Small Business Marketing Roadmaps. It hit 2 bestseller spots. You only have to be in the top 100 to be considered a best-selling author, but we hit 2, a top 20 and a top 50 spot. You can see at the bottom there, Amazon bestseller ranked number 17 and 49 in 2 web marketing categories, and this was our first attempt. Now, my associates and I are helping entrepreneurs just like you to hit the bestseller list on a near-on daily basis. We've hit number 1 on multiple occasions. Now imagine not only being able to call yourself a published author, but a number 1 best-selling author for the rest of your life. And here's a sample screenshot of just 4 of the somewhat 100+ news releases we syndicated across major news outlets, online magazines, and digital newspapers. The release will point to your newly earned bestseller status. We do the writing, the publishing, and promoting, and you get full credit in the media. Now, if we were having a beer somewhere, you'd probably be leaning over towards me and saying, "You know something, Stu? This is incredible. It sounds great. But how can I use all this stuff to get more buyers, sellers, listings, and sales?" Well, let's take a look at some methods of using authority to get more clients. Method number 1 is you'll sell more to existing clients. And how? Well, think about all those prospective clients you have in your funnel that haven't made the leap of faith yet, that haven't invested their trust in your services yet. They're sat on the fence, you're watching them, waiting for them to jump, but nothing is happening. You can't push them too hard, but you can give them a gentle nudge, so subtle that they don't even realize what's going on. And you'll do this by using what's called a humble brag, which is, in a sense, a shy or a reserved statement with the intention of drawing attention to something of which you are proud of. So you would use humble brags in an email campaign for each one of your media appearances. And the same goes for Amazon book launches hitting the bestseller list. Do you have a social media following? That's another great place to use humble brags. Same again for blog posts too. A social media humble brag can look something like this. Note what the text on the right-hand side says. I have exciting news. The Wall Street Journal just ran an interview I did about... and so on. That's one example. That's a humble brag. Let's continue. Method number 2 in using authority to get more clients. Prospects have far less resistance. We kind of touched on this before, but no harm in going over it again as it's so important. When prospective buyers and sellers are looking for someone like you to work with, they have far less resistance in choosing you over your Me Too competitors. And why? Well, simply because you're a published author who's in the media. A book creates instant credibility and trust and makes it easy for others to refer and recommend you. They just have to say, hey, you can see his book on Amazon. That's it, job done. As a side note, did I even mention that you don't have to write a word to be a published author? I don't think I did, right? Well, that there alone is something we can discuss another time. But for now, keep in mind there are ways to publish your book without having to physically write the book. And I don't mean hiring ghostwriters either. Enough said on that topic for now, however. Now, before we move on to method number 3, I can't tell you how many opportunities have come about since becoming a best-selling author and as a result of being featured in the media. You get referrals, you get prospects who previously ignored you wanting to talk to you all of a sudden. Even family and friends treat you in a more positive way. Look, just ask yourself this. What would it be worth to you to easily get one more sale a month? Method number 3 in using authority to get more clients. And method number 3 in using authority to get more clients is updating existing marketing. Before, we spoke about sending humble brag emails to your customers. Now that would be a manual process. In method number 3, you take it one step further and add your humble brag email in the first week of your autoresponder sequence. Now you are automating your authority. Once set up, you can forget about it until a prospect replies, congratulating you on your bestseller. Mention the fact that you're a published best-selling author in your email signature also. Set it up once and forget about it. Here come those trust triggers again. Remember them, right? The media tag saying, as seen on ABC or NBC, CBS, Fox, CNN, etc. Well, use them on your website, social media properties, email footers, business cards, video intros, and any print material you have. Use them everywhere where you come into contact with your target audience. Even on those postcards you've been sending out. Imagine adding a short, humble brag about how surprised you are to have achieved best-selling status, or how taken aback you are at the amount of interest the press is showing in your book. This stuff is golden, as it gets you more clients much quicker than the old-fashioned way. Okay, we've been going for some time now, and we've covered a lot of new ground. So let's quickly review what we've learned so far. In this training, you've discovered how to position yourself as the most well-known real estate entrepreneur in your city, attract more listings, and sell more properties. You also discovered a 3-step formula for creating instant credibility, trust, and positioning yourself as a real estate authority within your industry. And you also discovered how you can be seen on affiliates of national news sites, media powerhouses such as CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, and dozens more. Additionally, you discovered the Amazon best-selling loophole and how becoming a best-selling author is not about selling a lot of books. How entrepreneurs just like you are becoming best-selling authors without having to write a book. And finally, you learned how to use humble brags to sell more to existing prospects and clients by using email, social media, and more. All in all, everything you've discovered in this training gets you more brand credibility, high-quality listings, high-quality sellers, high-quality buyers, and high-end sales. Now, it's up to you. You have a choice. You can either take this information that I've given you here today, not use it, and just forget about it. You have the choice to say, you know what, Stewart? I'm quite okay where I am. I'm going to continue as before. I'm going to keep all the same situations I'm experiencing now, and I'm going to stay stuck at this income level. I'm going to wait for recognition that may or may not come. On the other hand, you can take the high road, take control, and claim your authority. You can say, yes, I want to get maximum results in minimum time. I want to blow right past my current monthly income goals. I want to dominate the market and be the number one choice for buyers and sellers in my city. I want to attract clients with high-end listings, and I want to get there like yesterday. I want to put this into practice, and I want to make it happen now, not just for me, but for the clients that I work with. I want to get them better results, operate with integrity, and hit those high-quality listing goals. If that's what you want, then here's what I have for you. I have set aside some time in the next week to speak to you personally about how you can apply these ideas to your business starting today. Look, I've given you the 30,000-foot overview. We only had a short amount of time together, so I could only do so much, but I've given you these principles. I've given you the authority, positioning, fundamentals that you need to take and use in your agency so you can take it to the next level. I did that, right? Now, all you need to know is how to apply them to your business. What does being the number one authority in your industry mean to you? What is being the obvious choice for buyers and sellers going to look like for you? And what are all those extra listings going to look like for you? You need to know how to apply these principles to your business. And what I want to do is to get on the phone with you on a one-on-one strategy call and walk you through that, find out exactly where you want to go and tell you exactly the best way to get there. Now, the cost of doing that is absolutely free. I'm offering this to you as a completely free service because I simply love doing it. I love doing it, my support staff love doing it. There is nothing more pleasing than jumping on the phone with a fully motivated, passionate, and enthusiastic entrepreneur who really wants to make a difference, has tons of value to share, and helping them to expand, take names, and elevate their expert positioning. Again, I love doing it, my support team loves doing it, and we're willing to do it with you completely for free. Here's who this is for though, because this is not for everybody, and I've got to be clear about this. You see, if you're a fly-by-night type of person who just wants to get in the limelight, make a bunch of money, and doesn't really care who they have to step on along the way to get there, this is absolutely not for you. And believe me, as soon as I get on the phone with you, I will know right away. I'll be able to tell you're that kind of person, and I will end the call. I just want to be 100% clear on that, okay? If that's the way you are, if that's the beat of your drum, then trust me, there are plenty of other people who will help you, who will work with you, who will get you what you want. Fact is, I'm just not one of them. If on the other hand, however, you have integrity and you have real value to deliver and real expertise, then I'm more than happy to talk to you. You've got to have real estate expertise. You've got to have real value to deliver. There's no point in me elevating you to expert status when you have nothing to deliver. You must have expertise, okay? And if you're an agent who's barely making ends meet, and I'm sorry, this is not for you also. If you're from another industry other than real estate, then this is also not for you. I mean, there's nothing wrong with other industries, of course. It's just not what I do. This is for people who have real value to deliver. I only work with top producing real estate entrepreneurs. I work with real experts. I work with people who are or who want to become educators and advocates for their clients' success. I work with people who are very passionate about their clients. So, why am I doing this strategy call if it's free for you? Well, here's the deal. The call will help you to get total clarity about exactly what you want your business to look like as the number one authority in your city, and the exact steps that you should take to achieve that. And here's why. Because I know that you might want me to help you to become or expand on that. And if you want me to help you to do that going forward, if you think it's a good fit, and I think it's a good fit, I may invite you to become one of the new clients that I take on this month, okay? If we work together, I'm going to put you through the same systems that my colleagues have used to create 147 best-selling authors in the last 6 months and counting. And a word of warning. I'm expensive, very expensive, as you'll see should we ever get to work with each other. My simple systems are designed to position you as the top authority in your market and leverage it to get more listings, more customers, and ultimately more money to grow your business. And lastly, we're going to expect you to be seen on media powerhouses like Forbes, CNN, Huffington Post, USA News, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, and dozens more, and reaching celebrity status recognition with new clients within the first 30 days. Now listen clearly. If you're already successful, but your business has plateaued, and you're feeling stuck in your business right now, and if you've been inspired by these things, I believe that you are on this webinar training for a reason. I believe that you came here because you needed to get a new perspective on how to take your business to the next level. So don't stop there. Find out how to take these authority positioning lessons and apply them to your situation. If you want to learn how to do that, you should see a little button appear below the video window just about any second now. Now, just in case you don't see it, the link to apply is at the bottom of the slide. Preferably, just click the button and go right to that page and start filling in the short applications. Now, there's just a few questions. So what's going to happen is you fill out that application and you'll be immediately redirected to our booking page. That's going to have the available appointment times to talk to me. I'll give you a call right at the time that you specified, and I'll take you through this process. I'll show you exactly how to apply these authority marketing insights to your agency. Look, hopefully you got a lot of value out of the training today, and hopefully you're tuned in. You're committed to dispelling the 5 authority myths in your business and taking your business to celebrity status level. Again, you can get on the call with me, click the button above, and fill out the form on the page you're taken to. I would love to talk to you about how you can start applying what you've seen on this training in your business. So until then, take care, and we'll talk real soon.